We are live on Oz Property Investor. We bring the big names and we have the big Captain Property Fun. I was going to say Captain Planet and I had to rethink about that. How you going anyway, Karen? What's happening?
Hi guys, great to be here. Yeah, feeling very powerful. I'm very excited to talk about money partners tonight.
The power of money partners. I feel like I should have done some weights. I should have done like a big workout routine, maybe like it. Anyway, how you going, Joe?
Protein shake or anything before?
No. I lift enough weights during the day. How about you, Joe? What's happening?
What weights do you lift during the day, Jeff?
Little bundle.
Let's not get into that. Well, yeah, you are the Captain Planet / Captain Property Hero for this evening, and I'm pumped for this one, mate. Excited to have you back on. I think it's been over like a year and a half since we had you back on.
I think it would be. It'd be closing in on that, I think. Yeah, almost 2 years. So I think we've done a few more projects since then and sort of evolved as a business and worked with a lot more money partners along the way too. So at least that gives us plenty to talk about.
Love it. Jeff, how are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm fantastic. I'm feeling really good. Sort of enjoy this sort of. I love more creative types of properties. So I think I can feel the energy tonight. So let's kick in, shall we? And I suppose if people have questions or comments, because particularly Greg Warner, if you're watching, mate, because I know you wrote some really fantastic questions. So I'm not going to go and look at the posts that I've written because we write about 100 posts or 10 posts. But if you've got questions, drop them in and we will get to as many of those as we can along the way. But what I wanted to say, what are we talking about? The power of money partners. What does that actually mean? So what is this session going to unpack? What should you expect? So we're going to talk about 101 of money partners. So that is kind of why and what they are and the essentials. Then we're going to go a little deeper. We're going to dive deeper into nitty gritty on money partners or MPs. I'm not going to say what we call project partners, an acronym we've got for that. But no, how to find them, communication, documentation, and challenges as well. And I think there's another sort of critical component is the questions you should be asking money partners and what somebody who's taking on a project, managing a project should be asking their potential money partners as well. So it goes both ways. So there we go. There's going to be so much content. Joe's got about 500 questions lined up. So
I got so many questions because this is like the one of the most valuable sessions I think we're going to be having on this show, purely because like as you grow as a property investor, you've got to kind of look towards the horizons and what other opportunities are out there. I know we say it all the time, like buy a property that has development potential, buy a property that has renovation potential, but you might not actually have the capital at that time to be able to do the project when it's the best time to do the project. So how do you get, what the heck is a money partner? How do you get one? And is it as scary and complicated and confusing as it is? I guess that's what Karen, you explain things very simply and break things down. So I'm excited to unpack the world of money partners and development and all this fun stuff. So cool. Thank you for coming on.
No, great. My pleasure. It's good. I guess I like explaining things. It takes me back to my old Juno public relations days about taking concepts and explaining. So fundamentally, a money partner is a person that has money in some form, and that may well be serviceability. It may well be in the form of cash, whether that's cash sitting in the bank, home equities or a line of credit, money sitting in a self-managed super fund. It can come in all shapes and forms. So fundamentally, it's someone who has generally a good chunk of money and they want to get involved in property deals, whether that's renovations, subdivisions, developments, but they don't necessarily have maybe the time, the knowledge, the wherewithal, the inclination to actually do it themselves. So they want to get some of the benefits, I guess, that go with active property investment without necessarily perhaps having to be on the ground and doing it themselves. So, and then obviously on the other hand, we have the project partner, we'll call them, and that's the person that has the project. However, they found that they've got something that they believe is a viable project that has a good chunk of uplift in it that will benefit everybody.
There you go. Really hit the ground running.
101? Is that us done now then?
No,
wrap it up.
Much more.
Can I say it's one of the things I've coached probably a couple hundred people over the last 8 or 9 years in various guises, and it's one of the areas that I think fascinates people the most, but it also scares the crap out of a lot of people as well, because I guess it's going into an area, you know, in polite society, we don't talk about money, right? It's one of those things we talk about. You don't ask how much someone earns. You don't ask how much money they've got in the bank, things like that. So for a lot of people, it can be quite a change in outlook to actually be having conversations with people around, so how much money do you have to invest? And this is the type of return or profit share that I can give you. And this is my deal, and my deal is going to make this amount of profit. So for a lot of people, it's one of the biggest blockages in going down the path of property. If they don't necessarily have access to those more traditional funding, they can see the benefit of this and they really love the look of it. It's like this bright, shiny object from afar. They love the look of it, but it sort of scares the crap out of them at the same time. So it's really common that there are so many questions and misapprehensions, if you like, around the topic.
And I think particularly in the sort of in a rising interest rate environment where borrowing capacity has been squeezed to some extent, it may be an alternative for people to consider. And it's not something that should be taken lightly. And it's probably rightfully so that people should be a little bit sort of concerned and apprehensive and just sort of maybe cautious. Put a little toe in first and cautious. And in that way, sort of, get to know the lay of the land and then maybe sort of, go a bit deeper. So
it's absolutely risk. It's risk, but in no way different to any other element of risk of property investing, right? There's risk associated with it for sure. Anything that involves money can, as we know, often bring out the worst in people. So there is that element. So certainly it is your responsibility as a money partner. If you are looking to invest with someone, it is certainly your responsibility to do your due diligence on that person and on that deal. It's no, I can come to you and say, I've got this fantastic deal. I'm going to knock down this house. I'm going to chop it into 5. We're going to do this and do that. And there's $1 million in it. And I need your money for 2 years and you'll make $200K and happy days. It's up to you to then go and unpack that. And we can talk a bit further about what information the project partner should be presenting, but equally the money partner needs to be very much doing their own DD as well.
Love it. Well, before we dive deeper into this, let's talk about, we got a new section here. It's not quote of the week. It is content that you have consumed for this week.
We need some music or something, Joe. Like,
So my current content is a book I've got here. So I think a lot of people in this group are big fans of Phil Anderson and the 18.6 year property clock. And this is a book written by his business partner, Akhil Patel. It's only come out, I think, in like the last month. And it's a great book. So he talks in detail about the 18.6 year properties clock, but it's actually much more of a how-to guide. Phil's stuff is great, but it can get a bit dry. This actually tells you about the different stages of the cycle and tactics and strategies and what you should be doing at each phase to be making the most of it. So I've only just started it, but it's a great book. I love it already.
Great book already. Well,
if anybody knows Akhil, please let us connect us in because we'd love to see.
He'd be great to have on for sure.
Let's get him on.
What about you, Joe? He's got to promote a new book. He's got to promote a new book.
That's
so
right.
I'm sure
he'll be on the tour.
Maybe get a free book out of it, Joe.
Content that I've consumed, I was consuming it today. I was consuming it really good. I was listening to a podcast called Founders. And I like autobiographies or biographies of people that have done great things like throughout history. Like, Elon Musk has done some pretty interesting things and Thomas Edison was incredible. But I don't have the time to sit there and read through an entire biography. What this guy does, he reads like 8 biographies and then just gives you the cliff notes. Like today, it's not even necessarily biographies. It's also, hey, I just read all of Warren Buffett's shareholder letters over the last 55, 60 years. He just breaks it down point by point and like pulls out the valuable pieces. So that is my content. The best thing that came out of most recent one I was listening to, it was Warren Buffett was like, just letting everyone know we've lost, $5 million in the bond market because the prices have dropped, but also just letting you know, we're not selling it, so it doesn't actually matter. It's about when we sell is the most important time. It's not about what it is worth right now. Just because all these other people are going crazy, losing their mind in selling the asset, it doesn't mean we have to be crazy and sell the asset. So it doesn't really matter what's happening in the market. It only happens when we want to transact it. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's cool.
What about you, Jeff? What's your content of the week?
That's I was just looking it up. So mine, I wanted to match up the content that we were sort of going to be roughly talking about. So I chose a very, I wouldn't say boring, but a very property sort of centered. Yours is quite interesting, Joe. Mine's a piece on that I read from Eliza Owen, and it was about exploring the short term selling continuing to rise. And what she defined as short term selling is stock owned for less than 3 years. So she was saying that in winter, 16% of listings had been sort of. So there's been an absolute surge. So in August, there was a record of these sort of short-term listings. So people were sort of cashing out and sort of selling their properties. And she sort of she posited the reason why people were doing this. It said here, I'm just reading some of the reasons. So she said, environment interest rates have risen, resales due to mortgage serviceability constraints, but also people flipping homes as well. So that's where I linked it into this kind of money partners and typically shorter term. So I just happened on this. I didn't, it was just coincidence, Karen, but yeah, so just found it interesting. Have you sort of found that there's more people flipping in your kind of area? You sort of seeing, or are you just seeing because more reticular activation? Are you just seeing?
I guess my whole RAS is geared around flipping, isn't it? But I guess certainly, and Adelaide's been fortunate that we didn't sort of have that softening that a lot of the eastern states did. We kind of pretty well just kept motoring along pretty solidly all the way through, and then it feels like we're off on a little kick again. So certainly I think people, they can see the market keeps rising, and if you buy well, I think people can certainly see the benefit of, turning something over. I guess what I'm seeing a bit, which I don't love, is some pretty ordinary renos, to be honest. Some real lipstick on a pig kind of stuff. And again, I think, money brings out the best and worst in people. I think sometimes people just think, they'll literally get it, slap on a coat of paint, whack on a new bench top, and off we go. So, yeah, I've seen some pretty ordinary stuff. But then I just think those that are doing a really good job, it just makes our stuff look really good. So yeah,
great. But if anybody knows Eliza, please get us in touch. We have reached out and we seem to struggle to get economists on the show, but they don't seem to like us very much.
Would we be missing much, Jeff, if you didn't have an economist on the show?
No, we love economists. I think it's fascinating just to understand their kind of, I know you're joking.
Or you could try and get Marky Mark on, Mr. Boris.
Mark Boris. No, yeah. I mean, good old.
Yeah, no, that's not.
I reckon it'd be interesting just to kind of hear it. Anyway, kind of feels like the Donald
moving right
Trump.
along.
Yeah, no, we shouldn't.
We got an ad. Let's jump into the ad before we introduce the amazing Karen Baldwin and dive deep into the world of money partners. Boom.
There's nothing worse than going into a situation unprepared, especially when that situation is purchasing one of the most expensive assets of your life against a trained property expert in the form of a real estate agent. It's a scary thought, but it is a skill that can be taught. Do you want to learn how to become fully prepared when buying a property so you can get out there, buy your dream home or investment property without the fear of actually messing it up? Scott Agate, the founder and expert property negotiator at Hello House, has been helping people buy their properties by stepping in and negotiating with the agents and saving his clients tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. Scott has now decided to share all that he's learned over the past 28 years in real estate so you can go out there and do the exact same thing on how to find a property, analyze that property, negotiate on that property, and transact on it to get the best results. He's created the Get Buyer Ready course, which is a step-by-step guide on how you too can become an expert property negotiator. It's the easy way of how you can avoid all of these agent games and get the best purchase price on that dream home or your investment property. The course is in short bites for busy people with no fluff at all. Just all the information you need to get buyer ready and secure that next property with confidence at the best price. Scott has been kind enough to give our community a massive discount with the link below. Sign up today before you even think about putting an offer on that next property, and it will be one of the best decisions you ever make.
Here we go. We are back. So the person the captain property we have in front of us, I'm probably trying to call you that too much today, but it is a good moniker. So Karen, who are you? We said you'd only done 60 plus projects, but it's in excess now of 70. So I don't know where.
Yeah, no, should I be offended? Yeah, we did a recount recently. I think we're at 73. I think that's about right. With the twins that we bought the other day, I think we cracked 73 with that. So Yeah.
Wow.
Oh wow! So you keep it, in the past 10 years. So that is very impressive. That's at least 7 Well, I mean, maybe not at least, but on average 7 projects per year. So
Yeah.
that's super impressive to be able to keep up that run rate.
Lots of
So
projects.
yeah,
it's a lot, and obviously cosmetic renos are in and out a lot quicker, so they kind of zoom through a lot more, and then obviously other things, and especially the last couple of years post COVID, trying to build anything, those things aren't turning over quickly. But yeah, it's a fair average, but I guess it's been an awesome experience, but it's just also given us I think a really good range of skills, opportunities, and yeah, we've done a lot of it with money partners, so super grateful to them for that.
Yeah. The other thing I found that you're also a property coach and speaker, and you did mention that, you alluded to that, but you're a keynote speaker at the inaugural Flipping Houses Australia 3-day workshop. Like, what's I mean, that sounds pretty cool. Like, did they give you like?
It was a new event. It was just COVID was coming. Actually, it was it's like COVID. What's that? Is that a cold type thing? So that snuck in just before it would happen. So yeah, I've done a bit of speaking and done quite a few podcasts over the time. Had the pleasure of being on with you guys a while ago, and yeah, one of the things I really enjoy. I've coached over a couple of hundred people now, and a lot of it is around sort of what we're talking about tonight: how to buy property off market and things like that, but then how to do a deal if perhaps those traditional money opportunities aren't there for you. So a lot of what I do with people is working them through the whole money partner process, actually, for sure.
Yeah, exciting. That's what we're going to unpack. So we usually ask people their favorite sort of property, but I believe we're pretty sure we asked that last time. So we're going to ask you to pick between your favorite kind of children. What is your favorite project that you've done?
We've probably a couple. The one that we've just got, I mean, the most recent often are the most freshest in your mind. So we've just bought a pair of masonettes. So they're like semi-detached here in Adelaide. They're built in 1870 in a super premium suburb, Parkside. It's about 2 or 3 Ks from the CBD. It's already come with the DA to knock off the lean-tos and turn them from a 2-1 into a 3-2 with al fresco, rear lane access, double car parking. So I think that's going to be a great project. It's nice and chunky profit, but it's going to be a good one. But I think one of my favourites was probably a bit of a defining moment. It's not really sexy, but it was a land split. It was our first substantial land split, and we did that. We got the DA on that the week that ScoMo announced the home builders grant. So we had 3 blocks of land. We sold them within like 3 days, and we made like 210K. And up until that time, we'd sort of been making sort of 50s and 60s on our renos. So I guess that was a bit of a light bulb moment for us in terms of different strategies.
Yeah, and what the returns could be on that. Well, let's dive into the world of money partners. I don't even know where to start. Where do we start with money partners? Because I mean, you gave a great kind of.
What are money partners?
Yeah. So a money partner is generally a person that's got a big chunk of cash. But it could be serviceability. They may well have the potential to borrow large sums of money, or it could be cash, and that could be in a self-managed super fund. It could be cash in the bank. It could be home equity. So it could be a line of credit that they've created against their home value. And someone who generally has an interest in property but doesn't necessarily have the skill, the time, the inclination to be able to do it themselves. So that's one side. And then the project partner is obviously the person that's gone out, hopefully found a really good profitable deal that they need some funding for. And generally they'll be looking for a money partner because they may well be tapped out themselves financially. Just traditional isn't available to them. They've got a mortgage against their house. And obviously this has been a big factor, as we alluded to, the last year or so now, with everyone's sort of serviceability dropping something like 25, 30%. So it could be you tapped out with the bank. It could be that maybe, you don't have a great track record with money. You might be in a situation where, you're not financial at the moment. I've worked with a lot of people that, for reasons well outside of their own control, their business went under, for example, as a result of COVID. So they lost everything, lost a multi-million-dollar business, lost their house, and they're kind of starting from scratch coming out of COVID. So they don't have the ability to be able to borrow money, for example. So money partners are great for people like that. So it can be great to get you started. It could be great. You might have a deal already on the go, and that's cranking along. And then, the deal of the decade comes along once a week, a cracker deal comes along, and great, you want to go for it, but all your financing capabilities tied up in this initial project. So how do I make project number 2 happen at the same time? For those who've done it, right, if you really want to scale your property investing and start to make it a real business, a lot of people use money partners to keep moving up those rungs of the ladder.
Yeah. And how do you find a money partner? Like, how do you actually find someone, and what are we looking out for in that type of person?
I did have a laugh. I think one of the questions today was, is there a secret handshake or like a secret money partner society?
Greg asked that one. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But do you walk in the room and it's a secret wink or something? Look, it's like, it's funny, Jeff, I think you talked about your reticular activating system before, right? So your RAS. So for those who are not familiar with it, that's basically your filter that your brain has, that when you're really locking on something, your brain filters out other things and really hones in on that. So, for example, if you decide you're going to buy a Nissan X-Trail, all of a sudden all you see everywhere on the road will be Nissan X-Trails. Your brain focuses in on that. So, look, there's a lot of different ways. Family and friends often can be a really good way to start, because they can perhaps be a warmer target than perhaps going out cold to the wider community. So, mum and dad might have a big chunk of cash or a lot of money sitting in super not doing much, or, your brother-in-law's just sold his investment property and he's cashed up and ready to go. So, you can find them through there. I mean, lots of property networking groups, there's dozens of property communities out there now, so they can be a really good way. Lots of deals get done in that environment. And obviously you need to be active in those and sort of going to the networking events in person and things like that. There's lots of groups on Facebook, yours not being one of them, of course, but lots of them that are very set up for just sort of deal hub and looking for JV partners and money partners and things like that. So, and even you might even find like your accountant or your own financial advisor or something might have clients who have cash looking for a good home. So it's really interesting. What I would stress is get really vocal about what you do, and if you're looking for a money partner, because it does become a bit of a chain effect. Well, I've got a lot of money partners who, our first money partner, Brett, who was amazing, and he did, I think, 10 or 12 deals with us in the beginning. He had a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper said, "Oh, what's this Rainmaker property? What's all this money you're making with Rainmaker?" So Brett introduced Tamara, and Tamara's now been with us, and I think Tamara's been in 16 deals we worked out the other day.
Wow.
I took her out for a long lunch the other day. I thought it was the least I could do to buy some great tapas and a couple of bottles of red wine. So, there's that kind of domino effect. Tell people what you do and the kind of returns you're offering, because, they can be pretty attractive returns. And if people have got money sitting in a term deposit, sort of getting 3 and 4%, and you're potentially offering 12, 15 or even more, it could be a decider for someone to take a big whack of cash out of that and put it into your project. So
on the return thing, because often people think about that's the headline thing that people talk about, but I want to even take a step back before we even sort of say what is it. Well, we said what a money partner is and how do you find them. Like the thing I want to know is why would an investor take on a money partner? Like, why does it happen? Yeah, because otherwise, I'm just thinking, why wouldn't I go to a bank and get a loan at not 4%, but maybe 5 or 6% these days? Why can't I do that? Why do you need my money? Why are you offering me 14 or 20% or whatever it is for my money? To me, that just sort of sounds, it seems a bit, I'd be a bit skeptical.
As you said, for a lot of people, going to the bank and getting an interest rate of 5 or 6% is just not feasible. So that they're already tapped out at that rate, or they're just not in a position that they look good on paper for a bank. So that can take that off the table. And it's so for most people, it's just a cost of doing business, right? So if you've got a good chunky deal with a good element of profit in that, every FISO I do, Scott and I do, even if we're going to fund it ourselves or get cheaper bank finance or whatever, I still always do my FISOs at money partner interest. Because then I know it's a really good deal. Because if I can plug in money partner interest and it still comes up with a chunky profit, well, then I know I've got a good deal. If I can then fund a big chunk of it myself or with cheaper finance, well, then I've got an even better deal. So for people like that, it's just a cost of doing business. If you've got a great opportunity, you can flip something and you can make $100,000 profit on this and in return, it's going to cost you $30,000 in interest for that period. It's just a cost of doing business.
Yeah, well, I mean, your interest, Jeff, was on the side of the investor and the money partner coming in. I'm more interested about why would a money partner, someone who is an investor with this cash, with this serviceability, not just go out there and do this all on their own rather than getting a return? Because right now, like interest rates are at 6, 7. I've got people with 8% of an interest rate. You put that in your offset account, you're automatically returning that 8%. So why would a money partner do this? Like, what's the kind of
so they may well have paid off their own home, right? So that they don't have debt, they don't have mortgage. They've just sold a business. They've just sold
capital, just sat there,
and they've got a big chunk of cash. What are they going to do with it? Okay, a lot of people aren't shares people. You often find there's property people, right, and there's shares people. Some people straddle both, but they often do find there's two camps. Okay, so I've got a big chunk of cash. I don't want to put it into shares. Term deposit's going to pay me 3 or 4%. I like property. I'm into property. I don't want to do buy and hold. I'm not saying I'm going to get those returns. So I like property. I'd like to get into developing, or I'm really interested in renovating, but I haven't got the skill set myself. I haven't got the time. I work 80 hours a week. I make $250K. I've got $500,000 in the bank, but I don't have the time to go out and find a deal, project manage a deal, do all those things. So this is kind of an arm's length way, as I kind of get to sort of vicariously be a renovator or developer through their property partner.
Yeah. And what's the typical return like a money partner should expect from?
I mean, in a lot of sort of property communities at the moment, sort of 15% per annum is sort of a pretty average kind of return. Having said that, we've got some old family friends that have been investing with us for years. They're really happy with 10% per annum. But what they do, they've got a large chunk with us, but they just keep it with us all the time. But we actually pay their interest monthly because they're retired. So they're getting monthly. So they're getting 10% rather than a higher rate, but they're getting monthly interest repayments. So that's their living money. So they're happy with that at 10%, for example. 12%, we've still got some family and friends on 12%. 15's kind of a standard, I think, in a lot of property circles these days. There's been instances where we've paid up to 18%. What's been a challenge is where we've had money partners who have borrowed against their home equity. So back a year and a half ago, we were paying them 12% and it was only costing them 2%, right? So they were making a good margin. And then, hey ho, 12, 13, 14 interest rate rises. The 12% is now, they're paying 6s and 7s. That's not much of a margin. So we've actually, in some instances with those type money partners, if it's the right deal and there's enough fat in it, we've increased our interest rate to something more like 18. So then there's enough margin in it for them to be worthwhile. And again, why would I do that? Because it's a cost of doing business and they're invested in projects that have, 25% plus returns in them. So I'm not going to quibble over a few extra $1,000 if they're a really good money partner. They've supported us. They're good people. They get us. I'm going to look after them as well. And then I have seen, some people paying and offering and asking for some 20s, 22%, 25%. I've never gone to that. It wouldn't have to be a really good deal and I'd have to be really tapping out my money partner supply for me to go to that. But that's just a personal call. I just think then you're starting to be wanting sort of developer returns. So it's a fine line there, but it's if that's the only way you can get the funds and the deal stacks up. Well, it's not for me.
You're being very diplomatic, Karen. I will say that if somebody's offering 20%, I would be scrutinizing every single word in any MO memorandum of understanding or
and there have been some companies that have done that, right, and who are no longer with us. So. Because it's what it smacks of is starting to get. I'm not going to use the P word. I'm not going to and Onzi, but I'm not going to use that. But you're sort of then getting sort of money into then sort of continue to fund things, and then you're sort of saying how you're then sort of paying back the people if the project is something, or could even be a house of cards. Like if something goes wrong in one of the projects, then
You just sort of say, well, how can they continue to pay that person 22% or whatever it is? So just
and we've seen other developers do that too. That's right. Take money from money partners and put it with other projects and things like that. And those poor old money partners would have had no clue. They would have thought they're investing with this person. So, like I said, it comes down to doing your own due diligence. So, whatever information the project partner is giving you. And so we always do a fairly detailed information memorandum, an IM. And we go through that. We talk through the project in detail. So we talk about the suburb, because most of our investors aren't in Adelaide. So I'm talking about Parkside and what a great suburb it is, and it's 2K from the CBD, and including some demographics and things like that. I'm talking about the property. I'm talking about how I bought it. I'm talking about what I'm going to be doing with it. So I'll include plans or an outline of the renovation and things like that. So it's quite detailed. I include my full feasibility. And I'm completely transparent like that. And then people said to me, oh, feel a bit awkward if the money partner sees how much I'm making. And I'm like, good money partners won't begrudge you making a good profit, right? If you're making a good profit, their capital's far more likely, and principal and interest is far more likely to come back. If you're doing a project with razor thin margins, you don't need much, for your reno budget or your development budget to go blip, or your sale price to go soft. And then they're not, they're not going to get interest. They'll then be lucky to get all of their capital back. So I don't begrudge. I don't have a problem showing my full feasibilities to people. I stand by them. And then we also include a CMA, which shows the resale, how we have arrived at the resale figure that we've plugged into the FISO. So a CMA to say, here's 12 examples of other properties that sold for $1.5 million in Parkside in the last 3 months.
Nice. Yeah. And sounds crazy, but I imagine so many people don't do that. But it's 100% confidence to the client, to the person that you're dealing with, to know that you're doing an actual good deal. And, oh, this actually makes sense and stacks up. When you talk about returns, like, how do you think about, because there's this thing out there in the marketplace, I need a 20% return on my, the deal needs to be 20%. Have you got a rule like that? Well, one, what is your thoughts on that? 20 has to be 20% return. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, 20% is generally in the development space. If you're talking about flipping and things like that, we tend to generally talk more sort of around, say, 12 to 15%. If you can be making those, you're doing well. I think on a cosmetic reno, probably more 12s at cosmetic, 15s probably more structurals. We tend to be looking for more development type returns. So certainly, and then developments, we could, I guess that was the way I was educated. Was pretty well on the 18 as an absolute bare minimum, but generally developments more the 20%. And
what about land sales? Like, how do you think about when you just sell the land?
Yeah, pretty well similar, because you've got the longer time frames and more capital and things like that. So you're just wanting to be getting that return. Whereas cosmetic, you're in and out, hopefully in 4 or 5 months. It's that velocity of money. You're turning over in Adelaide. You've bought it for 500. You've spent 50 on the reno. You're out at the other end. But yeah, if we're doing a development where there's much more, even like some of the bigger structural renos that we've done, that, the buy-in price has, been at the higher end for Adelaide, and then spending $500,000 on a structural reno, it needs to be getting those better returns, sort of at the 18s and 20%.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And land sales as well, just 18 minimum. You got to do it. That's cool.
And so that's protecting us, but that's also, I've always said, I take money. I used to be finance and a business journo, right? So I've always loved business and the way it works and finance. So, I take all money seriously, but I take money partners' money even more seriously. It's a massive privilege. And I feel, I don't take it lightly that when someone, lends 100,000, that's great. But, we've got one money partner, amazing. And he always has $1.25 million available to Scott and I for projects. And so we use it. And when we're done, he's like, well, okay, what are we going into next? And we rinse repeat. I don't take that lightly that someone's lending $1.25 million to us on a regular. I don't take it lightly that someone's retirement living depends on Scott and I getting our projects right. Yeah.
Well, and then again, comes down to that responsibility, isn't it?
That's right. But integrity as well, right? So, and so hence the transparency. And I guess that's the confidence of, 70 plus deals, worked with dozens of money partners. I think we worked out, I've added up, we've paid out close to $3 million in interest in that 10 years.
Wow.
So that's, but I think that's amazing, because I know for some families that was a new kitchen, right? Or that that's been the mortgage paid down, or that was an overseas trip, or that was school fees, or that was braces paid for. So that's why, when you get it right, it's that whole, I know it sounds a bit corny, but one of my favorite sayings is 1 + 1 can actually equal 3. Because if you get, two good parties together and working in sync and with integrity and wanting to achieve a really good outcome, then what you can achieve is, amazing. Sorry, I'm probably sounding a bit woo-woo now, but
we had a bit about sort of lending money. I mean, I don't think a lot of sort of money partners or sort of a lot of money partner providers sort of do this, but is it ever common where you have your books audited by a third party to say, okay, well, here's what they've actually, is that something that happens? Or
well, not generally, because generally, and I'll say too, obviously with all of this, this is my own experience. Okay. So I'm not a financial planner, an accountant, mortgage broker, any of that. I'm not giving advice. This is just my experience and people that I've worked with over the journey. But see, too, you've got different arrangements. A money partner, if someone's a money partner, generally it's much more of an arm's length lending arrangement. Okay, so you're lending me $500,000 for 12 months and I'm paying you 15% per annum. Now, if I FISO that I'm going to make X profit on that and we actually make a couple $100K more, that actually makes no different to the interest I'm paying you, right? I'm just still paying you that same amount because we've got an agreed rate of interest. Equally, if the project goes a bit pear-shaped and we make a couple $100,000 less than what we forecast, that still makes no difference to you. You're still getting your agreed because it's a fixed rate of interest. You can have a relationship. It doesn't
matter whatsoever.
Right. But you can have more of more of a JV, more of a joint venture agreement, and that might be more where that they're contributing like the entire amount or things like that, and you're actually sharing profits. So you might have shared roles and responsibilities, and generally money partner arrangement, the project partner is running the project. The money partner provides the money, and there should be they're two separate things, and they are certainly in our business. I know probably one of the biggest disasters with money partnering was back in the early days. One of my hubby's great mates was a money partner with us, but I didn't realize that he was also a control freak, and I'm a bit of a control freak with my projects.
Uh-oh.
And he lived in Adelaide. I have a bit of a running joke. People say, oh, what's the best kind of money partner to have? And I always say, oh, one that lives interstate. So he lived up the road. So, of course, he would drive past regularly. He'd talk to the trades when I wasn't there. He'd take photos of things and then circle them with big question marks. So they ended up, sadly, being argy. And we actually lost a friendship over it. The friendship slowly recovered many years later. But, so if you're a money partner who wants to, for example, learn how to renovate, you need to be really clear that the person you're partnering with is happy to bring you in on that journey. If the project partner's like, no, keep away, I want nothing to do with it. But if your project partner's like, yeah, for sure, come on site, I'm happy to walk you through things, I'm happy to show you, I'm happy to introduce you to my trades. So with everything in life, it comes down to having the same expectations of the project and good communication. So from the outset, both sides need to be really clear on how is this arrangement going to work? Is it more of a joint venture, which is sort of more of a partnership, or is it much more of an arm's length money lending? And I don't really want to know what's going on, and in that situation, we just update our money partners regularly, right? We just sort of say milestones. If it's a development, well, we've got the DA, we put the slab down, frames are up, we've gone to market. If it's renos and more regular updates. So you've got to be really clear about what it is as a money partner that you want from the experience, but the project partner also needs to be very clear on, what they're comfortable with allowing their money partner to be involved with.
Yeah, that sounds like a great lesson that you learned along the way, an expensive one in terms of relationship.
Yeah, lesson. Yeah.
But it's that communication piece of if you're running the project, if I'm running the project, I'm running the project, right? You don't want to have someone else. You don't want two chefs in the kitchen cooking up.
Someone asking, what color bathroom tiles are we having, and what sort of carpet's going in the bedrooms. That's kind of but that's okay. And I've got a really great girlfriend who does similar to what I do, and she's happy to do that. And so she'll often have people all come on site and she'll walk them through and show them everything, which is amazing. And certainly I'm happy to have money partners happy to take them through at any time and when it's finished, but it has to be agreed and decided. It's not cool for your money partner just to rock up on site and walk around and start poking at things. That's kind of not, it's not a great way to run a relationship.
One I wanted to just take a step back with something you said before, in terms of the return. So you get let's just say 15% return on a million. They give you $1 million, they get 15% return. You said if the deal doesn't work, they still get paid. How does that happen? The deal lost money, you lost money, the deal lost money. There it is. What if the developer defaults? What can I do to get my money back?
This is Amy's question. I'll sort of tweak it a little bit and say, is developer defaulting? I mean, I think that could be more slightly different.
Yeah, that's default's a big word. So let's maybe tie it back more to the way that you framed it, Joe, in terms of we do a deal. It was forecast it was going to make. It was a cosmetic reno case. So it's a smaller deal. It was meant to make a 100K profit. Everything went to pig put. The reno went out the window. The market turned soft on us, disaster, and we lost 50K. Yeah, in that situation. So we've had that over the course of, and I'm really transparent around this. We've had a couple of deals. Thankfully, out of 70 plus, I can count them on less than the fingers on one hand. But we have had a couple of instances like that. So in that instance, Scott and I had to stump up the shortfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does the client get a guarantee of that?
Well, no, there's really no guarantee. I mean, again, you'd obviously get very good legal advice, and certainly both parties should have, a really good solicitor on their team. They should be talking with their accountant about this. They should be talking with their financial advisor. If they're taking money from a
separate person from the one that you all
absolutely, yeah, not
separate.
The same person, not the same. No.
Some people would go to the same.
Sure. And some people just claim that they can happily do it and not have a conflict. How?
No.
If you're using self-managed super funds, well, then of course you should be talking to your self-managed advisor about this. So you'd be getting that advice and making sure that the agreement, as much as possible, outlines what happens in that situation. That if there is a loss, then the project partner still has to reimburse those funds. And I've seen instances where people haven't had it themselves straight away. So what they've done is they've gone, well, look, here's your principal back. We can't pay you the interest that we owed you for that period. We'll get a new loan agreement drawn up, and can you give us 6 months to repay that interest? Yes, there'll be interest on that again. We totally get that. And we commit that over the next 6 months, because we're doing other deals or from our own resources, we'll repay those funds. That's having integrity. There are instances I've seen people who just sort of go, bugger, sorry, soz about that. And that's, and the agreement's not been tight enough. And that, to my mind, is just totally not cool. I've coached people that were in JVs where it didn't go well, it ended, and they needed to tip money in, and the person was managing the project, and they were like, oh, well, that's the funder's problem. And I'm like, no, mate, no, it's not. Not on my watch. That's not cool.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
But a bit of a hard ass coach like that, I don't allow. We don't treat other people's money with disdain, right? So again, you should,
Elizabeth who said that. So Elizabeth said, coached by Karen, has partnered with 27 over 12 deals. Karen's words are gold.
Oh, that's right.
That'd be money as well.
Yeah.
There we go. So one of the questions I have about, I'm sorry, I'm just bombarding you with questions.
No,
I want structured, Joe, but Joe's asking questions.
I guess where was I going with that? Do you get loans? So we've got a deal. Do you get loans for deals as well as incorporating money partner money?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, let's say a client.
You mean bank loans, Joe? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like
top ups. Yeah. Yep. So, like, for example, some of the renos and things we do, the biggest structural renos, will get private equity money. And so, we'll get them, and they'll fund, for example, they might fund 65-70% of the purchase price. Okay, so I've still then got that shortfall. I've still got to make up, 30% of the purchase price, plus about 5% odd in stamp duty, plus then whatever the reno is, and insurance and council rates and all that type thing. So often I can have a bit of a hybrid. So it'll be private equity money, and then Scott and I might tip in X amount ourselves, and then we'll top up them with some money partner funds. Yeah. But again, we're very transparent about that. We explain all that to the money partners. So again, that's one of the questions you want to ask is, well, who else? How many other money partners are there? who's who in the zoo, who's got what share, and security and things like that. So you want to make sure you're transparent with all that sorted.
Very, very good question. And what? Yeah, are we talking to that now? What questions should we be asking property project partners, or Jeff?
Probably
I don't know.
a little bit early. I mean, can talk about it, but
it's too early. It's too early. It's too early. Could the developer have skin in the game and make them more accountable, as some do no money down deals?
I thought that was
really good question. Yeah, as much as possible. I think it's really great. You have to question. If the developer or the renovator says to you, I don't have skin in the game, but it's because I've got all my available funds are tied up in these deals here, X, Y, Z, here I can show you, then yeah, certainly there's been times, like at any given time, looking at the whiteboard here, I think we're sort of in between 8 and 9 deals, and that's like 2 structural renos, about 4 land splits, couple of builds, etc., etc. So at some periods, we're kind of all tapped out, and then some money comes back, great, so we can use some of that. So if it's a small developer doing 1 deal at a time, you would ask why they don't have any skin in the game themselves, for sure. But if they're perhaps someone,
what should we see for what is skin in the game? Like, how much should we see them? Like, is there like
it depends what you're comfortable with. Like, for some people, they might be happy to see that the developers put a couple $100,000 in. For someone, it might be, well, I want to see that you're covering half the amount yourself. So, again, I think perhaps one of the things that we haven't touched on yet is, the risk profile of the money partner. Money partnering isn't for the lighthearted. And too often you can see people, and I think I kind of alluded to this before, you don't get the returns of 15, 16, 12, 18% with term deposit security. It just doesn't work like that. If you want term deposit security, then you're going to get term deposit returns. If you want kind of renovator, speculative, more deal returns, well, then there's a risk associated with that. So I've spoken with potential money partners as a project partner who I felt wouldn't be a good fit for us as a money partner because they just seem too nervous.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll self-sort themselves out, right? They'll have a chat and they seem all ready to go, and then all of a sudden, crickets, they're not answering your calls or responding to your messages. So that's a pretty good sign.
Or the partner said, "Oh, actually, we can't do this. It's too much risk." And that's fair.
And I've seen many a time. I'll run up past my accountant. Well, that can be a good way to kill a deal. Having said that, a lot of accountants love property. And do their own deals and developing things themselves. So I certainly have thought, I won't hear back from them if they're taking it to the accountant, and they've come back, no, the accountant says it looks good, he thinks your numbers look good, and yeah, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm keen to go ahead. So you need to really, if you want to be a money partner, you need to be really clear within yourself about what level of risk you're comfortable with. I'll give you an example. Recently, you had a deal that was ongoing, a development deal. It was taking a long time, but it was moving in the right direction. And this gentleman is a lovely guy, and he had a certain amount of money with us, and he was going back to the UK to live for a while, and he was backwards and forwards, and he just said, look, Kaz, it's not you. I have full trust in you and Scott. He said, I'm just really nervous about the world at the moment. This is when some of the American banks were a little bit wobbly, sort of earlier this year. And there were talk, is this it? Is this the next GFC coming? Are the dominoes about to fall? House prices going to crash 20%, da, 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 da. And he was just really nervous about it. And I said, not a problem. I'll pay you your money out. And we just paid him out from our cash reserves and his interest, because I said to him, I don't want you lying awake at night, feel nervous about your money sitting in my project. So I'd much rather I paid you out, all done in good spirit. And he said, I may well come back. And I said, absolutely, come back when you feel comfortable that the world's in a place again. But he was just at that time, and he's in his 70s too, so he said, if I lose this amount, it's hard, I'm not going to get that back, right? As opposed to a 40-year-old. So, and I would much rather he had his money back and sleep well at night than be lying there and not sleeping at night, worried about whether he's going to get his money back on a deal. So as a money partner, you need to look at your risk threshold. So as a project partner, I often look at the money partner and think, okay, have they invested in property themselves, or are they fairly entrepreneurial? They might not be in property, but they run their own business, or you can tell they've got a fairly entrepreneurial mindset. They've got a reasonably high level, a reasonably high risk threshold, I guess.
What are some
perhaps
other
someone who's been more in a safer job and they've been in the, and I'm not casting dispersions at all, but perhaps someone who's been in the same job for 30 years, and a bit more of a security type person, I would have to really question, are they really going to be comfortable? Because there's enough going on as a renovator or developer, right? There's enough stuff happening at any given time between councils and builders and everything else. You don't really want to then have another kind of layer of complexity, is that your money partner then is freaking out at you partway through the deal.
Yeah. There's a good question here that talks about security while we're talking about risk. What level of security is best when doing a money partner deal? Like, how should we think about this?
Well,
Best
there's different levels.
Best is a loaded term, I would say. Best for, I suppose.
There's levels. What are the levels?
But I guess if you're a money partner putting money in, so often what happens in the communities and things that I operate in a lot is, for example, if you're doing something like a cosmetic flip, you've got a buy price, 5 or 6 and your stamps and whatever. If someone's contributing the whole amount, that can be a situation where a first mortgage is a really good security to be able to take, right? So they effectively become your Westpac or your NAB. They funded the entire thing, so they're taking a first mortgage. Or if they're funding a really large amount of it and maybe you're just contributing the rest yourself or with a second money partner, offering them that first mortgage. So that gives, obviously the ultimate level of control. It's the same level as a bank. So if it does all go pear-shaped, they can actually then step in and take the property.
They get the property. They get. How does the money part? How does the project coordinator, project person, then sort of protect themselves, project partner, protect themselves from the person? Would you put caveats over it as a project partner? Or
yeah, totally. Yeah. So you've got a financial interest, so they've got a first mortgage, so you've got a caveat. But keep in mind, people aren't running around loosely just calling in your mortgage, right? It's not something you just do really lightly on a whim one day because, wouldn't this be good
to sell the property because,
wouldn't this be good for giggles, right? It's a massive process. It's traumatic. It's costly. It's legal. I've seen an instance where it worked and this is really good protection. I was in a community and sadly there was someone who wasn't doing the right thing by people and was doing multiple deals and I think was borrowing money and I think living off the money and I think using some money to prop up her pretty ordinary business and, all sorts of rubbing Peter to pay Paul constantly. And she was, the money partner lived in Sydney. The deal was on the Central Coast. She's saying all these things were happening. He got in the car one day and drove up there. These things weren't happening. Like the reno wasn't underway and things like that. She couldn't account for any of the money. He'd given her all the reno money up front. She couldn't account for it. So in that instance, he used his mortgagee rights and he took the property back, got his own trades in, did the reno, got an agent in, sold it for a profit. So he took his money, but as per the agreement, she was still entitled to profit. So she ended up making money. So this guy did the right thing, bore all the stress, and it was really very stressful for him. He luckily got his money back and his interest, but actually the pretty ordinary project partner still ended up walking away with profit because that's what the agreement had stated. So there's that, and then what's generally quite often used is a caveat. So that's more where the solicitor or your conveyancer puts a caveat on and it sits there on the title, and so it doesn't have the same legal clout as a mortgage, but it certainly protects your interest. It ensures that I don't go and sell the property, I don't renovate it, sell the property, take the proceeds, and then off it goes. You have to sign off and withdraw the caveat and things before the property can settle. So this is all, again, stuff you should be talking with your solicitor about, and the two partners should be talking about security and what can be done and what's acceptable to both parties and things like that. And again, if you're not comfortable with the level of security that's being offered as the money partner, well, then you should walk away.
How about loan? What sort of protection? I suppose aside from the caveat or the first or second mortgage, what other sort of what forms of security can people place upon the deal?
You could have. A lot of people can say, well, they're not worth the paper they're written on. You could ask for a personal guarantee. You could ask for a director's guarantee, something like that. But, if that person has no assets or has structured things in such a way that they're the guarantee, but all the assets are sitting in their partner's name or whatever, that is another option, but a lot of people do sort of look at them with a fair level of caution, because really, how effective are they? So again, they're conversations you need to be having with your solicitor around what other avenues are available. What is the project partner comfortable putting up? It might be that maybe they might have another property that they'll also give you security over. If you're borrowing more than the purchase price and the stamps and the reno, you could effectively say, well, okay, you're borrowing 120% from the money partners. That might not be enough security for some people, but it might be, well, look, okay, I've got an investment property sitting here with a big chunk of equity. I'm happy to give you some security over that as another fallback. But again, has to be, what's the money partner wanting? What's the project partner happy to to give up, to put forward? And what do the solicitors think is fair and reasonable enough to cover the risk? So again, you can do a lot of this stuff and you can cover a lot of the bases, but at the end of the day, we're talking about people and we're talking about property. And, the best of intentions can sometimes go out the window.
Yeah. And also, it's quite a stressful event, like talking about all of this stuff and thinking about this stuff. I mean, just for me, I'm like, well, I want the most secure, I want all the security that I can get for the money. And then the developer's like, well, yeah, but I mean, we're all taking on risk here, and we can only give so much. And also, you're a bit of the pain in the ass. I don't want to work with you anymore.
Oh yeah,
money partner.
And look, and certainly it's about knowing, I have some money partners that really don't give a rat's bum about the project. And, that's not a bad thing. They're just like, look, here's the money, Kaz. Let me know when it's done, right? And I'll still send them updates. I'll still send them. Yeah. Whereas I will have other money partners that like a higher level. I've had money partners that live in Sydney that will fly over to come and check in on the project. Quite rightly, he has a big chunk of money in that project. So don't have a problem with, of course, anytime you want to come over, come over. So it's also, that's my job as the project partner. If you're that nervous, don't do it. Yeah, pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's sort of, like if you're not comfortable, and regardless of whether that's the money partner, the project partner you're not comfortable with, or the project, just figure out what that is, because
that's right. And listen to your gut too. Like, don't underestimate the value of your gut, right? I've heard plenty of people that have put money into deals and it hasn't gone. And they go, oh, I knew there was something dodgy about that bloke. He just, there wasn't something. There was some of what he said didn't stack up. Okay, well, again, it's on you. It's on you, right? It's your It's your money. It's your responsibility. It's the same. I give you an IM, an information memorandum, with all this information in it. But if I tell you that, all these houses have sold for 1.5 in Parkside, well, you do your own DD, right? You jump on yourself and have a look and just see that, it's those sorts of things. It's your money. So what is that saying? You can't control everything, but, you are responsible.
Yeah. And what is a reasonable thing to ask as a money partner? Hey, look, I have $250,000 and we're going to go do a land split, knock down a house, put up 3 blocks of land and then sell that land. What should I be asking for, or what should I be putting out there from the project partner?
Okay, cool. So I've come to you, I bought the project, right? So I found the land, I found the thing, we're knocking it down, cool. And someone told me that, hey, you should go chat to old mate Joe, he's got 250. Okay, cool. So you should be asking, I guess, so tell me about the suburb. Tell me about, okay, so you're chopping into 3 blocks. So what size blocks are you doing? Because like, for example, I talked about that project. It was a bit of a light bulb. We had a big piece of land. We chopped it into 3 and sold them all in a week. Now, that was a big piece of land. We actually could have subdivided that into 6 blocks, right?
Yeah.
But it's Aberfoyle Park here in South Australia. It's a very established family suburb, right? Lots of teenage kid families. So we knew, small, narrow frontages, single garage, 300 square metre blocks. No one wants that. We did blocks that were 700 square metres with, a 12 metre frontage, so they could get a double garage and do all that kind of stuff. So you should certainly be asking, okay, so you're doing that sort of size allotment. Why that size? So what can you tell me about your market? What can you tell me about your buyer, your demographic? What can you tell me about your price point? What can you tell me about the council? So how likely is this? I'm sorry, Jeff.
And evidence of it as well. Like I'm looking at the document you sent through to us on the important in the IM or information memorandum. Yeah, great to kind of, you are running through these sort of points.
So you're doing a development. So is this going to get through? You've just bought the raw site. So is this within the plan? Can you actually create blocks of that size and that width? Is that so? Can you show me that? So we're doing lands. So have you checked for easements? How comfortable are you that the site's intact? Are there any overlays that we should be worried about? Are there any easements? Are there anything like? What about that? That's a big ass tree at the back there. Is that going to be a problem, or is that a significant tree? So things like that, right? And then the end product, and then who you're selling them. So are you going to sell them yourself? You give them to an agent. Okay, so why that agent? Are they a local expert? Are they good? What price point? So why that price point? Okay, cool. The knocking something down. Have you is there asbestos? Is there anything like that? Have you allowed for that? I could go on. You need to be doing your own DD yourself, right? Sort of take what they give you, but the world we live in, there's no excuse really not to be able to jump on and spend an hour or two and do a lot of your own research or make a couple of phone calls yourself.
Counsel.
Yeah. So do you secure
I'm a money partner too. So I'm a project partner, but I'm a money partner too. Scott and I have an SMSF, and we obviously can't invest in our own project. So I'm a money partner too. So I wear both hats. I should have said that at the beginning. So, for example, if I'm putting our SMS money into a subdivision, that's the kind of stuff I'm asking.
Yeah. And then one of the things that stood out to me when you were talking about the deal, you said, I've already got this deal secured. How do you work with, so you already have the deal done, locked away, or do you say, hey, I want to buy this deal and do this project? How do you structure these purchases so that you have time to get the money and do all this stuff?
Yeah. So how do I do it, or how should you do it?
Both.
So if I'm your coach, I'm telling you that you want to have your money partners. You're constantly working on your money partner network, right? A lot of people ask this question. So when they go, what comes first, the deal or the money partner? It's the chicken or the egg. My view should be they should be running concurrently. You should be looking for a deal while you're building up your money partner networks. You should be starting to schmooze your family and friends and lay those things. So generally what we advise, particularly if you're going for something like an auction, right? So auction conditions, things like that, you want to make sure that you've got your money lined up.
Yeah.
Okay. In other instances, you might have signed, and depending on what state you're in, you might have got cooling off time. So you potentially could be doing that. So, tip for new players is have your money partners lined up before you go to an auction. For example, I have had coaching clients from me saying, so Kaz, I did a thing this morning. Oh, what was that? I went to auction and I bought something. Like, oh, okay. I don't remember the money partners being lined up. Yeah,
I think I might know who this is. We'll have.
So that's not, but I do generally go. Scott and I generally go. Like we bought at Parkside the other day. I didn't have. We'd done our fees on. We'd worked out. And we believed it would be a combination of private equity, some of our own cash, and some money partner, and we were pretty confident. But generally, you want to, have the normal, have a finance clause, right? You don't necessarily, depends some states and things like, well, who's the financier and things. Other times you can get away with just a more, generic. But you should always be working on having your money partners, and you certainly want to make sure you're confident you can fund that deal before you've locked it right in.
Yeah,
I think, I'm gonna let Joe loose soon. I just wanted to ask, and we haven't specifically covered off, but I think one of the I wouldn't say underrated, but more important things with any sort of project is the exit strategy. How do you sort of unpack a lot of that with any potential money partners and what should?
Well, everything we're talking about here is pretty well generally for shorter term deals, right? This is not really a buy and hold strategy, unless, you're borrowing money from mum and dad at, 5% or something maybe. But generally this is for shorter term deals. So this can be, it works for cosmetic renos, structural reno, subdivisions, developments, anything that's sort of 6 months to 3 years type thing. So I'm sorry, Jeff, what was the question again? Rest of that?
So kind of talk about exit strategies. And
so obviously you'd be very clear. So it's a flip. So we're going to flip this thing. We're going to put in a new kitchen, new bathroom, paint, put a deck in, and we're going to put it back on the market and we're going to sell it for this amount. Yep. So in that situation, I guess, or a structural reno, it's okay, well, what's the worst case scenario? Oh, we put it on the market. It's not selling. We're not moving it. So you kind of really need to have some different plan Bs and things there. So what is it? It could be, okay, well, look, you've got so much of an uplift in it that you potentially could refinance, pay the money partner out, and maybe you hang on to it for a while and you're Airbnb-ing it, or you rent it for 6 months, and maybe then you're trying to sell it again because you really don't want to hold on to this thing generally, right? You're wanting to try and move it. So you might hold on to it for 6 or 12 after you've refinanced. Or there might be, I've seen situations where the money partners agree to, stop the interest clock for a while if they've had to do that. Okay, well, we'll stop the interest clock, but then when we get to the end, we'll renegotiate. And again, that needs to be done with really clear communication and input from solicitors and things. But you might look at it that way and go, okay, what does it look like when we do get to finish it? If they're developments, okay, well, we're going to, obviously a common formula with a lot of developers, we build 5, we sell 4, that pays out the entire debt, and we get to keep the 5th freehold. So we do that. The 4 that we sell will pay you out entirely. So you just need to have some conversations around, if everything doesn't quite go to plan, what is the scenario there and what's the breathing space? So again, that's really about communication. And this is where I see people go wrong with money partners, is when things do get a bit hairy, and things do get hairy in property. Some people just shut right down. It's like it's like a
COVID happens, and you can't get bank fine. I mean, I know you.
Well, not even that necessarily, but just the reno's gone to pig pup, the builder's stormed off, you've run out of money, and I've seen sad instances where the project partners just stopped communicating.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've seen that someone had a mental. Yeah, sorry, that's right. I've seen someone sort of basically have a mental breakdown, right? And they just couldn't communicate and they couldn't deal with it, which was devastating for them, but of course devastating for the money partner. They're like, and this is in a deal in another state. And so that's where, if things do get a bit hairy, if it is taking longer to sell, or if there's some challenges, or the DA is taking so much longer, just keep communicating. Like I know, again, as a money partner, I get frustrated if, I'm not hearing from the project partner when I know things are probably going a bit hairy. I think, why am I getting crickets? That's normally a bit of a warning sign. So good, bad, or ugly, you should be communicating with your money partners regularly around what's going on and what's working. And if stuff's not quite going to plan, be transparent, being open about that. This is the reason why, but this is equally what we're trying to do to remedy the situation. We're trying to get it back on track. I'll keep you posted. Please hang in there with us.
Yeah, and that's all they want. They want a little bit of confidence, right?
Because people will cut you slack if you communicate. 99% of people want the best for you, right? They don't want you to be, and they can already see you're in a stressful situation. 99 times out of 100, they'll go, look, okay, no worries, not great. Yeah, we are mindful because we kind of do need that money back, but we don't want to make life stressful for you. It sounds like you're doing everything you can. Appreciate the communication. Please just keep talking to us.
Yeah. How do you time all of this? Like, I think you've got a whiteboard there with a heap of deals coming on, and then you've got this capital, and then this deal's going to come through in 3 days. This deal's going to come through in 6 months. This deal's going to come through in 18 months. And this one, 26 months. And then it's like, holy dooly. How do you...
It's pretty well a full-time job. Pretty well what I do in our business. I find fund fees. I find fees I fund. So I'm the one looking for the deals. I'm the one that run the feesos, and then I fund them. So I've got a spreadsheet at any given time with all the money partners and how much money they've got and what's with us and what potentially might have and what's due back when. We have Linya's our admin assistant. She works 3 days a week for us. So she's the one that pays all the bills, runs all the zeros on every project, etc. So she gives me a weekly report on every project and where it's sitting and what it owes us and things like that. But it's pretty well a full-time job. It's a bit of a Tetris puzzle. And constantly, and knowing then that people situate, and we're talking about people here too, right? And stuff happens with people. So people's situation changes. And it only happened for the first time in the last year. I'm surprised probably didn't happen before, but one of the saddest things that happened for us is we were mid-project and one of our money partners passed away. And that was a really horrible situation because he was a lovely man anyway. Like, we considered him a friend. So that was very sad and upsetting. But it was a development deal. Timeframes were running over and his partner needed the funds back because it needed to go back into the estate to pay out, his beneficiaries. And the project was running well behind time. So the loan agreement was due to expire. And normally we would just go and say, okay, the loan, the project's still going, the loan, can we extend the loan agreement, renegotiate terms and extend for another 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, whatever we need. But of course, she needed those funds back. And this project's still half done, stuff everywhere. And that was a significant amount of money plus interest that I had to get back to her. I got that email saying, I'm really sorry, Karen, but I'm going to need it back. And that just, again, the way the universe works. Less than an hour later, I had another money partner email. She had a chunk of money and she'd just been diagnosed with terminal leukemia. And so she needed her money back within 4 weeks to tidy up her affairs before the end of financial year so her accountant could close off that year and have it clean, ready for her daughter. And again, she's a friend, and so that was so double sadness. But then, I basically had, $600,000 worth of money partner money that I had to backfill. So I had to find other money partners that would come into the project to be able to pay them out.
Yeah, because paying, let's say $30,000 in interest payments is nothing compared to paying the $300,000 that you need to give back to the money partner mid-project that you needed that $300,000 to run the project on.
Correct.
Jesus.
And the profit's still 12 months away, right?
Nowhere to be seen because it's not ready yet. The chicken hasn't been cooked.
Yeah.
I'm very cautious of your voice. We will run to a short break and then we'll jump into questions. I think this has been a power pack session. I think you've shared so much value. I appreciate you running
play a
through
special
it.
Captain Planet scene, but maybe not would get
This is
copyright.
this is why you got it. This is why you got Captain Planet.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special announcement from the Master of Commercial Property Investing, Steve Polisi.
I love commercial property.
Get ready to have your minds blown as Steve is back and he's got some pretty exciting news for us. Steve is unleashing his second sensational book upon the world. And get this, for the Oz Property Investors members out there, he's giving it away absolutely free. Yep, 100% free. Yep, 100% free for all property enthusiasts who want to learn and grow on their commercial property investing journey. But he's also added a little extra chili to make this deal even spicier. With this free book, you'll also receive a complimentary 1-hour strategy session with the man himself. Imagine the full 60 minutes with Steve's commercial and property genius dedicated to helping you master the intricate dance of commercial property investing. And who better to dance with the man who looked better than Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing? Don't know about that. Want to grab this offer? It's super easy. If you're live right now, click the link in the comments and secure it today. If not, grab your device, open up the browser, head over to polisiproperty.com, look for the book page and grab your free copy of Steve's latest masterpiece. And when you're checking out, make sure to use the exclusive code OZPROP to secure the free book and also your free 1-hour strategy session. My only concern with this offer is that Steve's going to have to turn it off soon, as he can only do so many sessions. So if you want to secure your spot, do so today. Oh, nearly passed out there. I like that ad. It's one of my favorites. We've lost Jeff. Oh, here he is. He's gotten a tea.
Actually, a nice warm cup of tea. But no, how good. So, I think we will crack into. I think Joe's. I think we could go for 3 hours legitimately, but we won't do it. So, sorry, you got rid of Karen. What'd you do, Joe?
I think we've frozen her. Sorry, Karen. We froze. Well, I don't know if we froze her.
Yeah, but Joe, what are your key insights thus far from the? Yeah, I don't know what's happening. What are your key insights thus far from the session, mate? I'd be keen to hear.
Well, it's made it tangible for me, right? Like it's made it realistic that you can go out there and get a 15% return on your money. Who else is going to give you a 15% return on your money? Nobody. Is there risk? Yeah, absolutely. But if you're doing it with someone that knows what they're doing and you can get that money back, it's a cracking deal. On the other side for the property project partner,
the PP,
you can get amazing returns with as I was saying before, like I did a land subdivision split just recently. Actually, we just sold the third block. Bought the property, 485,000. We're selling it for 260, and the last one I think we sold for 250. So what's that? 700 and whatever. But I'm doing a joint venture with someone, so they're getting 50% of the project, and they're probably saying, You're getting 50% of the project. But with money partners, I'm just paying them, 15% on the money that was put in.
If they lend you sort of 300K or whatever, 300K, so 20%.
I mean, how much did we put? That's it. Actually, let's do it. I think we put in 250,000 in total, times by 15%. That's 37,500. That deal made 150 grand. So instead of splitting that 50-50, I'm now splitting that.
Karen's back.
Yeah, much better.
Get Karen back
Maybe.
again.
With like a swirl of death.
Yep.
Here we go. I would say that we're going to answer all these questions, but I don't know if we are.
I can't answer on Karen's behalf, but I've seen a few.
Oh, she's back. We've made it.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry.
Right.
We've had a heap of storms here and the power keeps on going in and out. So my apologies. So I've jumped on hot
Crazy.
spots.
It's a storm here in the South Coast as well. It's like we're all got the Captain Property vibes going. Like the absolutely earth, wind, fire, and water. Captain. Yeah. Sorry. So go. So
exactly.
before
do a bit more Shazamming.
Yeah, Shazam. So what before we, and Joe's probably got another 45 questions, so we'll try and we could have done 3 hours. But what I wanted to know is what are some of the challenges you've faced? What are the typical challenges you've faced in your sort of money partner journey? So we can, and how have you troubleshot those?
I guess probably the first one's probably always the hardest, right? So, it's hard. I've talked a lot tonight about, asked to see their IM and what experience and things they have. So that first one's probably always the hardest. We were probably lucky because we were introduced to someone who was very cash rich, time poor, loved property. We'd done a couple of deals on our own. So we did have a little bit of a track record. So I guess for most people, that hardest part would be getting the first one. I think certainly for us, it's been those situations, when you're dealing with the CBA and someone dies in the CBA, it doesn't impact your loan. You got a money partner, they pass away, that really has a massive impact.
Yeah.
When you have to backfill $600,000, you get 2 emails in an hour and saying, you got to backfill. It's days like that. I go, no, I'm not sure I'm built for this. I still have those days, right? Even now, 70 plus deals, all that experience, all those money partners. So I think it's just managing expectations and reading people. I think that's something that I probably do quite well based on my background, is knowing who to almost over communicate with, who to keep it to really, minimal communication, things like that. So it's just basically, I get like a lot of things with property and stuff, it's just keeping all the balls in the air at the same time, knowing where everything is and who's doing what, and just managing it all, and just knowing it's people. And look, there's been situations where we've done someone's come on board as a money partner, and I've made the decision I would never work with them again because they have been that kind of that nightmare money partner. Even having a coffee with people or a drink and good chats and things like that. Sometimes you still don't always get it right. So there's certainly and there's been people that we've respectfully declined as well. I know when I've gone.
So I was going to say, I'd actually agree. Like if as much as you can meet with the people in person, because I remember when I've done 2 joint ventures, which is different from money partner. And the first sort of couple of people I met, or first, I think it was the second one I did that one I had a coffee with them, and I think they, for whatever, I think we both sort of cancelled each other out. Like it's sort of, the conversation was great, but I just think there was a mismatch between what we were both looking to achieve. And it's not that we didn't think that we could trust each other. I'm sure we could have, but there were just conflicting sort of objectives as to how long and how quickly and what we wanted to achieve from the project. So. And I wouldn't have been able, I don't think you could do that over a Zoom or a phone call. I think you need that sort of face-to-face as much as you can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Having that drink or coffee.
Yeah, I think it definitely.
Similar values
helps.
Are really important, Jeff. Similar values, particularly even what you say, even more JV, because a joint venture agreement is pretty well, it's a quasi business arrangement, right? You're in a short-term business partnership with someone. So similar values are really important. An example of that would be, say, joint venturing or on a reno together, and I'm really about quality and I'm not really into the whole lipstick on a pig and slap a bit of tile paint on and, you know, she'll be apples type thing. And then if you've got someone that wants to do cheap and cheerful, there's a mismatch there, right? So, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Sorry, that wasn't what I was going to bring it up. It's okay. It's okay, Ron. Never fear, mate. We've got YouTube for you. We've unpacked. All the gold will be available to replay at your favorite speed, whether it be 0.5% or 2x on YouTube later on. So we'll drop that link. But
I'm very cautious of not wanting.
Okay.
We want to keep your voice forever, and not ruin it. Be the ones that have.
That's right.
So
All right.
there's just a couple of questions that I wanted.
I've got 5 or 10 more left in me.
Well, we'll keep them short. I haven't read all of this post because it's hard to read, so I'm going to read it out, and hopefully it's a good one. It's well written. It's a lot of words. So how do you do all your checks? And after doing all your checks, including past deals and people, then the deal doesn't go on time, even though you were assured the worst case scenario, the person has done this deal. Yet the time comes to receive your money and it's all delayed because of XYZ, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, your deal thought was well researched and grip tight is not so good and starts to becoming a nightmare. Wondering if you go to your capital back and agreed to, wow, okay, I feel like this person's been burned. Not speaking from
this is somebody you're ultra cautious, not necessarily been burnt.
This doesn't feel like a high. So I guess I would suggest there, you know, presumably it's something more like a development. So if the person's got a good track record, past deals, etc., and that certainly has happened to the best of us the last few years, I have to say, there's many times I've had to go back to money partners. It feels like cap in hand and go, look, I'm really sorry, but council still has come back with another range of questions. Or the builder has assured us that they were going out of your hands. No matter how good, no matter how much you run a tight ship, that stuff is totally out of your hands. So I guess one thing I would say, if you're a money partner and you're going into a deal, you don't want to be running your own deadlines really tight. You know, you don't want for the money partner to say, oh, the project will be done end of December, you'll have your money back end of the first week of January, right? That's kind of dangerous. And I've had money partners who do that. It is property, right? It's people. We've been in an unprecedented environment the last couple of years. So I can say, you know, there's been several projects of ours that have gone way over time. And there's been instances where I've had to pay people out because, well, and fair enough, the loan agreement had expired, the project wasn't finished, they were committed to other things. So I totally respect that. And that's obviously their prerogative to line up their money. So do be cautious about maybe in this environment of late, hopefully it's getting better, but don't be, you know, running deadlines really tight yourself as a money partner. Perhaps and again, that should be the communication. If your money's due back on the 31st of December, the money partner shouldn't be telling you on the 30th of December that the money's not coming back.
Yeah,
right. The project partner would have known probably November, December, and they should be communicating that nice and early on. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah. So how do you frame?
So again, that's about communication, getting on the front foot.
Yeah,
having uncomfortable conversation.
But an uncomfortable conversation is better, you know, a month before rather than a day before. And it just shows the integrity of the person that they're dealing with.
Yeah. And that gives me time too, right? So if the person says, look, Karen, I'm sorry, come hell or high water, I need it back.
I need my money back.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I cut across
you can almost then, you can start to then problem solve if that person can't, if they need their money back 1 January or 31st of December, then you can start to say, well, okay, can we then sort of start to release some of the funds as it comes through? Like, do you need all the money? Like, what do we need the money for? Like, how do we come to an agreement where everybody wins rather than saying, okay, look, I can't do any of that because the project's delayed and I don't have any money. So,
right. Or it's something like a development or a land split where you're getting it's not just, you know, reno's a bit harder because it's just sitting there in one project, but a land split or a development, hopefully you've got sales and settlements are coming through at staggered periods, presumably. So it might be like, okay, well, look, leave it with me. I'll go see if I can negotiate with the other money partners. If they don't need it desperately, we'll make sure that you get paid first as settlements come through and things like that. So again, if you kind of take a partnership approach to it and try and problem solve together, rather than just saying, well, this is your problem. 1 + 1 = 3.
The other question I have is, like, if you're doing like what you're talking about before, you have that person that they give you, you didn't say numbers, but let's say they give you $500,000 and then you paid them over a month. Do you take more money than needed and use their own money to pay them that recurring interest repayment? Yeah.
Oh, the ones that are paying them their interest monthly. The family members that we're paying them 10% and paying them interest monthly. No, that's coming. So having done this for long enough now, we've actually made some good profits along the way. So we also do have cash reserves and things as well.
Yeah.
And we've got stuff constantly happening, right? So there's a constant, so every quarter, I do a cash flow forecast with Linear. So we go, what's coming, what's finished, what's coming on. So I can forecast my cash flow for every quarter, so I can see what money. So I can be going, okay, well, I can actually pay that, and we have some, set monthly, because we have private equity money too, and they have monthly repayments. So we've got, it's this constant. I do feel like a mafia money lender sometimes, but we do have projects finishing and profits coming in and things like that all the time too.
This is a good question, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Sorry if it's already covered earlier, but what are the risks and rewards for the different arrangements for money partners, percentage of profit or percentage of return on the deal? So this is where I think we're talking about joint ventures where we get a percentage of the deal rather than just a fixed percentage return on our capital.
Yep. So obviously JV can be more financially lucrative, but equally it also has more risk with it, because like I talked about before, if the budget's blown out, sales are softened and the profit's not there, and if even there's a loss, for example, we go from a forecast profit to a loss, you're then 50% liable for the loss as well. Whereas with a money partner arrangement, you've got a fixed rate of interest. So like I said, if the deal's fantastic and we end up making heaps more profit than we forecast, well, that's to our benefit. Equally, if it all goes pear-shaped and we make a loss on it, well, that's our problem. Rain, hail or shine, you've got your fixed 15% per annum on your money. So JVs certainly can be for those who have got, again, a higher risk threshold and perhaps want to be a bit more hands-on themselves, because generally with a JV, and I don't know if this was your situation, Jeff, but you often do tend to split up roles and responsibilities as well. So you go, okay, well, you're putting this money in, we're putting this money in, you're taking care of X, Y, Z, we're taking care of A, B, C. You've got these roles, and we agree, we meet every week, and we have a meeting, and we're sharing this. So it's certainly, it can be a lot more lucrative, because you might look at the FISO that a project partner puts up and go, oh, right, I'm going to make, 30,000 interest. They're going to make 300K on this. But like I said, equally, we've taken on the risk. We found the project. We could equally make a 300K loss. So that's why we get the returns, right? You take the developer risk, you get the developer return.
Yeah, I'm interested. Andy keeps asking a lot of questions, but I think we answered this one, Andy. If there's a loss on the project, does the money partner still get paid? Well, generally, I mean, it comes down to what the agreement says.
It should be in your loan agreement that you would make it very clear.
Yeah.
And in your loan
I think in
agreement
a joint venture,
this is the amount. And like I said, even if worst case scenario.
Sorry, you go.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, you go. Sorry.
Yeah, so this is where your agreements are really important. So a good solicitor from the get-go, structuring the agreement that, okay, there's a loss, and even if it's not straight away, but there's an assurance that the principal and interest will be returned, as per the agreement.
Love it. I am. My throat is hurting listening to you suffer through this. You're too kind to say, guys, it's probably time to go. And it's definitely time to go. This session has been, as I said right at the beginning, this is going to be one of my favorite sessions because you don't hold anything back. You've got amazing coaching clients that you help do this. We had a couple of people jumping in saying, oh, I've run 37 projects because of the education and everything. How can people learn more about you, what you're doing? How can because this sounds like a great gateway drug into getting into the money partner space.
I'm always happy to have a chat with people. I get a lot of messages from people and I'm always happy to have a chat and get some insight. So welcome for people to, send me a message a message or jump onto our website. There's a contact form there.
Yeah, we got
so
one.
yeah, look, I'm always happy to chat with people and offer some insights or some thoughts or whatever. So yeah.
Love it. Here's one. Kaz is awesome. Her guidance has resulted me with 8 money partners, all paid out, and is successful in a multi-million-dollar business and ready to do more. Thanks, Kaz. Ridiculousness. And you keep just giving it all away, Kaz. Thank you very much for the absolute gems that you've given us here. Reach out.
My pleasure.
Did you put it in the comments there, Jeff? Pop it in the comments. Rainmakerproperty.com.au.
Yeah. Yeah, I realised we didn't do that.
A lot of people helped me along the way, so I'm really grateful to be able to give back as well. This is my way of sort of say we've got legs up, you know, here, there, and insights, and people that have been really generous with their time and knowledge. So I try to do the same now too.
Yeah, no, it's very rare to get somebody sort of talk to, particularly in the sort of project space, to that actually is sort of backing their sort of selves in terms of paying their investors back, regardless of whether the deal makes money or not. And I know that, I mean, everybody does their best, but there's not always that integrity there with some of the projects I've seen kicking around the last sort of 5 or 10 years. I've been doing this sort of stuff. Nice.
No.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Karen.
It's a difference, right? We're all. At the end of the day, we're all people, and the money's great, but I'd rather be known for having been someone that did good things for people and helped them on their wealth journey rather than sitting there with a big. All right. Thanks,
look
guys.
at this. We're getting a call. We're getting called out here. More of these, Jeff and Joe. Love it. Thank you very much, Karen. Let's go buy a property, everyone, and catch you then.
Happy to return anytime, guys.
Always.